The ancient civilization of Kemet, also known as Egypt, was one of the most advanced and sophisticated cultures of its time. The Egyptians, as they were commonly known, had a vast knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, medicine, engineering, and architecture that continues to fascinate and inspire people to this day. But what was the secret behind this knowledge? How did the ancient Egyptians achieve such a high level of understanding and mastery in these fields? To begin with, it is important to understand the context in which the Egyptians lived. They were situated along the Nile River, which provided them with a reliable source of water for irrigation and transportation. This allowed them to develop a complex agricultural system and a thriving economy. Additionally, the Nile also played a significant role in their religious beliefs, as the annual flooding of the river was seen as a manifestation of the god Hapi. The Egyptians also had a strong tradition of education and apprenticeship. From a young age, children were taught the basics of reading and writing, as well as mathematics and other practical skills. As they grew older, they would go on to specialize in a particular field, such as medicine or engineering, and learn from experienced practitioners. This system of education helped to transmit knowledge from generation to generation, ensuring that the skills and techniques developed by the ancient Egyptians were not lost. One of the most remarkable aspects of the ancient Egyptians' knowledge was their understanding of mathematics. They were able to perform complex calculations, including the use of fractions and the solution of algebraic equations. They also developed a sophisticated system of weights and measures, as well as a decimal system based on the number 10. This knowledge was not only used for practical purposes, such as building and surveying, but also in their religious beliefs, as they believed that the universe was ordered and governed by mathematical principles. The Egyptians also had a deep understanding of astronomy. They were able to predict eclipses, identify the movements of the stars and planets, and even developed a calendar based on the cycles of the moon. This knowledge was not only used for practical purposes, such as determining the best time to plant crops, but also had a significant religious significance, as the movements of the stars and planets were closely linked to the gods and goddesses in their pantheon. The ancient Egyptians were also renowned for their achievements in medicine. They had a detailed understanding of the human body, and were able to perform surgical procedures such as amputations and cesarean sections. They also developed a system of medicine based on the use of herbs and other natural remedies, and had a deep understanding of the causes and treatments of diseases. This knowledge was not only used to heal the sick, but also had a significant religious significance, as they believed that disease was caused by the wrath of the gods, and could only be cured by the intervention of the gods. The Egyptians were also masterful engineers and architects. They were able to build monumental structures such as the pyramids, the Sphinx, and the temples of Luxor and Karnak. They also developed advanced techniques for quarrying, transportation, and construction. They used a combination of observation and experimentation to discover the properties of materials and develop new techniques. This knowledge was not only used for practical purposes, such as building and infrastructure, but also had a significant religious significance, as the temples and monuments were closely linked to the gods and goddesses in their pantheon. In conclusion, the ancient Egyptians, or Kemet, were a civilization that possessed a vast and sophisticated knowledge in various fields. The secrets behind this knowledge are not entirely known, but it is believed to have been a combination of observation and experimentation, cultural and religious influences, a strong tradition of education and apprenticeship, and the availability of resources such as papyrus for writing and the Nile for irrigation and transportation. The ancient Egyptians were a civilization that was deeply connected to the natural world around them, and had a deep understanding of the cycles of nature, which they incorporated into their beliefs and practices. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of their knowledge is the fact that it was not just used for practical purposes, but also had a significant religious and spiritual significance. The Egyptians believed that the gods and goddesses were closely connected to the natural world and that their knowledge was a gift from the gods. They saw the pursuit of knowledge as a sacred endeavor, and this belief helped to drive their achievements in various fields. It is clear that the ancient Egyptians were a civilization that was far ahead of its time. Their knowledge and achievements continue to inspire and fascinate people to this day. However, it is important to remember that the ancient Egyptians were not just a collection of facts and figures, but a living, breathing culture that was deeply connected to their beliefs and their environment. Their knowledge was not just about understanding the world, but about understanding their place in it, and how to live in harmony with the natural world. In conclusion, the ancient Egyptians were a civilization that possessed a vast and sophisticated knowledge in various fields. The secrets behind this knowledge are not entirely known, but it is believed to have been a combination of observation and experimentation, cultural and religious influences, a strong tradition of education and apprenticeship, as well as the availability of resources. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect of their knowledge is the fact that it was not just used for practical purposes, but also had a significant religious and spiritual significance. The ancient Egyptians were a civilization that was deeply connected to the natural world around them, and had a deep understanding of the cycles of nature, which they incorporated into their beliefs and practices.